When looking at the dilemma of midlife and what to do and trying to understand what's happening at that time in our lives, it's important to understand some of the processes that are going on psychologically for us. And one of the ways to understand these processes is to become familiar with the idea of liminal space. And so liminal basically means on the threshold, or in between two worlds or two spaces or two identities in this case. So a liminal world means I'm not the old self and I'm not yet the new self yet. I'm not the guy or the woman that's based their lives on younger version ideas, and I'm not yet the wise person who has taken all these ideas, seen what works, seen what doesn't work, and then made a new decision yet. I'm still right in between there. And this in-between time really feels like, and this is what most people describe when they're in a midlife crisis, they feel this liminal space, this in-between place as kind of like a dead place. People can feel panicky about it, they can feel worried about it. It's really a time when a lot of people freak out. And so this liminal space actually can afford us a way to regroup and do some reflecting and do some distilling of our experiences so that we can actually make really good choices from this point forward. So at its worst, liminal space can feel like stagnancy. It can feel like a lack of direction. It can feel like what I tried before didn't work and now I don't know what to do. You can feel like all of those things put together where, something has to happen, but I don't know what it is. And it's just usually a time when people get very, very concerned. And a lot of times people will revert to the unexpressed things in their younger selves, in their younger lives. So take this for example. Let's say, you had a time when you were partying a lot when you were a kid, teenager maybe. You put aside that so that you could become a father, a husband, or some kind of worker who is taking responsibility and standing in line and doing things in society that you're supposed to do. And then in midlife, all of a sudden you realize, well, that didn't really work for me. Nothing really came of that. I might have a family, I might have, a job, but I'm not fulfilled. I'm not happy. And then you start taking up some of the old things that you left off in search of that responsible life. And so there goes the partying again, getting into, habits that didn't work before and they're not going to work again. It's just like flailing about trying to grab the younger self. So even though this liminal space actually feels like a space of stagnancy and a space of lack of direction, we're actually being prepared for the next iteration of our life by the things that are happening in liminal space. The difference is we get to start choosing what we want to happen next. That is the time for reflection, collection, integration, and distillation of our experiences so that we actually get to choose from a place of wisdom and experience what we want to happen. This time we have a say. This time we get to choose, and this time we have experiences that we can base our new choices on. So one of the tricks of this time in liminal space between your younger self and older self is to not try to accomplish too much. And what I mean by that is, don't try to be doing lots of things in the world as far as action and self-expression, because this time, this liminal space, is for inner work, is for reflection, it's for categorizing different experiences that you've had, looking at the different choices you've made, where they've led, evaluating how those choices have affected your life, and then deciding if you want to continue on that same path or whether you want to strike out on a new one, just depending on how you process all this experiential data during this liminal time. The liminal time in midlife is a time of not knowing. So let me repeat that. It is a time of not knowing. You're not supposed to know who you are at this time. And that's a really scary proposition for most people, unless you've gone through it once or twice. There is a time for knowing who you are And in between the first iteration of your life and the second, there's a time where it's important for you not to know. During this not knowing time, it can be very, very distracting. It can be very distressful, and it can feel like something terrible has happened. But meanwhile, in the liminal place, your job is not to know and to be open to the sensations, the experiences, the metaphors, the images that are coming to you during that liminal space, and use that time to get information about where you want to go, what you want to do, how you want to be living the next part of your life. Because remember, you're setting yourself up for the next 40 or 50 years of your life, and this time you get to take a little time and set yourself in motion using the information that you have lived up until this point. So if you can become comfortable with the idea that not knowing for a little while is safe, you can allow some of your genius qualities to emerge that weren't being paid attention to before. You can actually let them come up, don't try to make sense of them, and see that, these genius qualities are here for a reason. They have something to do with my life purpose, my life meaning. They have something to do with how my life is either fulfilling or not. And in this time of not knowing in liminal space, I'm going to allow those things to kind of come up and take a good look at them and to see how I can actually integrate those things into my next phase of life expression. So the bottom line for liminal space at midlife is that it's time to do a course correction. This is a time where I've been heading in this one direction for as long as I can, and I just can't do it anymore. Let me pull a full stop. It'll seem like I'm dead in the water, but actually I need to stop so that I can know where else I would like to go. And from this place, we pick a new spot on the horizon after a lot of reflection and evaluation, and then we begin again. If you're interested in learning more about how to find your own genius qualities and how to live a purposeful and meaningful life, hit the subscribe button and check out thegeniusway.com for tools, tips, and encouragement.